Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth in terms of understanding a female psychopath, the female psychopath, and one of their traits, which I would really discuss as sort of violating of boundaries, going beyond the norms, going beyond what is usual, going beyond what is normal or average or what we see on a universal basis. And particularly that in terms of what I would consider sort of thoughts or what you might consider thought control. And when we talk about this, you really do have to call it seeing through the dark or seeing in the dark, because it is not perceptible to the eye. It is not something which is physically readily, observable with your faculties, with your senses. When we talk about sort of violating boundaries, it's a lot more than, being rude to somebody at a meeting or invading somebody's personal space momentarily. It has to do with sort of an exuding of energy, which seems to surpass really your own energy or your own ability to think for yourself, think clearly, and think as you're normally organically known yourself to do, or as you know or experience yourself, your own sense of self. And with this energy sort of violation or surpassing of what you consider, your own, it really does sort of seep in and overwhelm and sort of take over. Taking over meaning what you have going on within begins to shut down. It begins to open itself up, to be open to the energy. It's so engulfing that it can take one over, be overwhelming. And sometimes the taking over, especially I think for a lot of men, they tend to interpret this as a positive. Let me do this. Let me handle this. Let me take the lead here. It can give a relief to men, especially if they have been in a quote unquote normal, traditional relationship where they have responsibilities, accountability, things may be humming along, things may be getting stale, things may be getting old, things may be just, stable or set in their ways. And this comes as a opportunity or for something new, for something novel. And the usual thought would be, well, I should be careful about this, or this, could be, problem. This could be trouble. But this energy that the female psychopath has to, go beyond sort of that is usually used with some sort of manipulation or power or control mechanism. Meaning, look over here, but yet you don't see what's going on over here. And this is really how the female psychopath will work. It's sort of a throwing of energy is kind of the only way I know to describe it. Where because they are wired differently, their way that they speak, their use of emotions or body language or words of emotion or their own verbalization of their own physical body is different than most other people, the majority of the population. Once again, this can be interpreted as, look at this princess, look at this unicorn, look at this gem, look at this diamond, look at this unique gal. OMG, I should be so lucky. I should allow this. So, all of those assessments usually are felt to be out of character. In other words, I wouldn't usually do this. This is not usually me. But then if the deal seems too good, to pass up, a lot of men then are forced by this trickery, by this deception, to follow along and get the goods, get the prize, go for the good stuff. go for the love haul, go for whatever it is, this outlet that is newly created. They're ripping you a new one. And the violation of boundaries is oftentimes, what they're doing, they know to be not normal. They don't really have a sense of right or wrong, but they know that most people would not do this. Put their hand there, say this then, take you here, do this there. The sort of trying to beat the clock. All these sort of risky behaviors, which people, once again, men who are involved with them romantically or in business, oh wow, this woman is really helping me in my business, or they're really helping me with that, or it's such a relief is that I don't have to be the father figure, or I don't have to be authority. This is such a de-stressor. I haven't had this much fun in so long. All these sort of assessments that are then at the bottom line of why they should do it. And so they get kind of mesmerized. They're seeing something there that is not there. It's just like a drowning, not a drowning man who all of a sudden sees land and then they think it's land. It's kind of like what you might hear about the mesmerized, the walking in the desert. And, all of a sudden, they're so dehydrated and they're so with heat stroke that they're getting into this delirious state and they think that they see water. And then all of a sudden they get this new second wind, this new energy. There's water out there, and they keep going and they keep going, and they might go on for 3 hours and they think that they're almost there. And then the mesmerize, fades into the distance and they see it is just more sand. And at that point, that man walking through the desert dehydrated is so out of energy and so dehydrated, and they can't think. They're, running on this sort of, delusional track that they can't correct their own track. They can't correct. They become powerless. It's a very threatening and scary feeling, especially if in your everyday society and everyone else is just doing their routine, and all of a sudden your whole composition is thrown out of whack. And it can be very scary, very alienating, and people wonder if it's ever going to change. And the good news is, yes, it does. But you have to be able to not interpret this sort of telepathic communication. And I say telepathic, I guess with a grain or several grains of salt, because, a lot of people think it's woo-woo, or what does that mean? How could I perceive this? I'm just making this up in my mind. And kind of it's my feeling that a psychopath, because they don't have the regular physiology, that they think differently, and thoughts are things, and thoughts are energy. And so the energy is just sort of broadcast. The energy is broadcast out there. And when you're with them, you can become like a receiver, like an antenna, like a receiver. And so all of a sudden you're picking up this, and then for a lot of men, I think they're like, wow, this must be my soulmate because I'm picking up on their thoughts. And they think, wow, I've always heard, two heads are better than one, or great minds think alike. So then they think, wow, this must be the new climax in my life, that I'm now, thinking in this new way. And it's like I'm reinventing myself. I've got a new lease on life, And so once again, it's this false interpretation of a positive, when it's really a giving up or renouncing of your sanity and your own natural, normal, healthy, functional thought patterns. And, it's hard not to take that for granted. You don't really know that you're in the thick of it until you're, up to here. You don't realize, because it can be that engulfing, and it's hard to catch it. It's hard to, understand, because it's so abnormal. And a lot of men are not wanting to talk about this. I seem to, hear their thoughts in my sleep, and next thing you know, the next morning, this is what happened. or I seem to be able to hear them across the room and they haven't said anything. Her eyes speak volumes, or I can hear her heart, or all these strange, things that people won't say because they're like, that sounds, kind of cray cray, so they're like, well, I better not tell that to anybody. This must be my little private heaven, and once again, it's, they keep it to themselves, and that's part of the problem, because that's what the psychopath is banking on, is that you don't tell anyone these things. They want you to keep it a secret. They want you to keep it under wraps. They want you to, make the commitment and not tell anybody. And they know this effect that they're having because they've been there, done that, and they're giving away the t-shirt. They're taking names and they're kicking people off the ramp. And they're the ones who are like, ha ha, I'm not losing the sleep. They know what's going to happen. It's a long-term deception, and it's a long-term hurt. It's a long-term harm. It is what it is. This is just, even despite they can seem like the most beautiful, the most loving, they've been there, they've helped me, you have to beware and you have to be careful. So this sort of violation of boundaries and this sort of planting of oneself. And the thoughts, meaning that the thoughts are things, and how you think is what you will receive. If you want to see, the impact of your thoughts, look around and you'll see what the impact of your thoughts has brought you, whether it's what's in the fridge, what's in the bank account, who's on your phone. This is a product of you. And so thoughts are things. And with a psychopath, it's my feeling that, especially because they have such narrow focus when they're scoping somebody out, that they tend to sort of throw energy or think hard, if you will, or sort of put it out there, what they want. In other words, how they want to be perceived. They're very much into controlling their perception that others have of them. So they're very much into persona management, persona maintenance. Perceive me this way, think of me that way, see me this, feel me that. And with this, though, comes a whole nother level of manipulation. The way that they plant themselves, and then the thoughts that are sort of, it's just sort of throwing out their net, if you will. And the net can go over everything, and then it just kind of pulls in all of the fish or all of the eyes on them that they are then wanting to manipulate. In other words, what might they sort of push out there? I'm the biggest one here. I am the one who is the leader here. I am the influencer. Or I am, in other words, taking, power and control, based on power and control. All this is because of me. These are the sort of thoughts, even though it's not. Not all this is because of them. They did not send this all rippling, out. But these are the sort of thoughts that they harbor and want people to think, and they focus on it so hard, and then they position themselves so that there's a sort of play on images and words, but that go beyond the conscious and sort of seep in and then plant this experience in your unconscious. So it's beyond your conscious awareness that you're even thinking, feeling, or acknowledging of this, which is why it is so scary and why it is not in your control. It is not in your control. And so, for example, what might be an example? I'm the one who started all this, or all this is because of me, even though some big organization obviously existed or was there before them, and they're like, this is all because of me. So they might stand themselves at the door of a building, and they might be wearing something that sort of mimics the building outside, or there's going to be a connection of either colors or just position of their body language. It's hard to describe because, I mean, it sounds crazy, but unless you've experienced it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's very difficult to put into words. Lining up the shape of their body with the light fixtures. Like if you've got two lights, that then look like Mickey Mouse ears, that look like the female organs, that then look like 2 cups of coffee, that then look like 2 quarters, which then look like 2 volleyballs, which then look like 2 apples. In other words, there's a way that they weave in communication so that then it comes back to the original, I am at the head, the apple on the top, the one who started Apple computers, the apple of my eye, the apple of the Garden of Eden, apple a day keeps a doctor away, an orchard of heart. I mean, it's just hard to describe how all this weaves together. And once again, if you have not experienced this, it's hard to describe or probably hard to relate. But there is going to be more of this, I feel, going on. And a lot of viewers have said this, is that, a lot of people haven't talked about this, but now I think it's being kind of blown wide open in the information and digital age, especially as we see certain puppet heads out there. And so it's a violation of yourself without you knowing. It's a violation of yourself without you knowing, which means you're dealing with something that is something that you can't, you can't control. You might think you can, but the communication that seeps in, oftentimes, like we said, it affects people in their dreams. We've had viewers who are asking about that. What does this mean? When you are having these dreams, and it can be very, very vivid, and you're like, why am I having this dream of them with this and that? And we're at the bowling alley, and then this is going on. It's just like, it's a very physical, I mean, you could have sworn you were there. It's to show you that your subconscious is picking up on all this subliminal data and subliminal programming that they are adept at using. I mean, they're master manipulators, and not, again, master meaning, accomplished, positive. We're talking about in the other direction, in the negative. We're talking about on a scale of 1 to 100, they're negative 1,050. They're not even on the scale. A lot of this, I think, hasn't even been discussed, researched. I mean, we're not even on a tip of an iceberg, but thank goodness there are people out there who have, discussed this, studied this, providing tools, who can help to piece this together for people who have been, made as victims. And the problem is that you can become a victim in your own home, a victim of your own company, a victim of, trying to do something good, a victim of trying to have love, a victim of trying to help somebody else, a victim of, trying to become the best that you can be. You become a victim. And so there's this transgression. That is the word that I'm looking for. A transgression of boundaries. And so a throwing of energy. In other words, violating physical and, societal norms, touching, verbalizing, passing notes, doing texts, things that that you could not even think that what they would set up, line up, they are doing. And it creates this sort of mind control and then a guessing game, which then usually the victim then tries to, kind of discuss then with the perpetrator, with the female psychopath, which then they just lead you further down the rabbit hole. And then, then the men usually end up down in the rabbit hole and there's no way up. I mean, it's just, they're down there and then it's just like, what rabbit hole? Who are you? And it's just, they have no recollection of a relationship. They have no recollection of a fight. They have no recollection or connection. And it's just like, even though they've done something really to hurt you, then they'll just turn around and then be like, well, did you still Did you still want to get together tomorrow? I mean, they'll just say it as flat out. And is that flat? It's just, it's just, again, it's testing, and they will take, and they will keep transgressing these boundaries for as long as people will allow, until they really expose them. And then they see, what a little bit of what they're dealing with, and they see the darkness, and you can see through the darkness, but at some point the darkness is going to become where you can't see through it. And then there's a physical darkness, almost on a paranormal level, which means this is out of the range of what mankind is able to perceive with their senses or even know about. And so, you're getting into a real realm of the unknown, and, no return. And I don't say that as thrilling, exciting. Oh, isn't this the frontier? It's like, people say, are they alien? I get a lot of viewers who are like that. Are they alien? I think they're aliens. I don't know, but, I'm not here to diagnose or treat or label or condemn or anything of that. I'm here to inform, educate, erudite, help illumine, give you some tools, resources. And I do this with the utmost of seriousness. We can laugh, we can giggle, we can joke, to help you to get beyond it, to get, into the, so you can digest this information and get into a level of communication that you can then connect with other people, including myself. So, to out crazy, them, they are not crazy. They are not the, people say, oh, maybe they're crazy. These people are very keen and oftentimes highly intellectual, very intelligent, meaning that they can pick things up very quickly, sequences of words that they can just mimic and parrot back. They are literally parrots. They are literally like a puppet. And they will also, to violate your boundaries and to get you down, I will often definitely recommend, have you recommend that you notice. And if you, want to say, been there, done that, this is what happened, is the sob story. To get your guard down and to violate and transgress your boundaries is going to be the sob story. Woe, woe, woe is me. Poor, pitiful me. I was raised here. This happened to me. My friend did this. My father did that. My ex-wife did this. My ex-sister-in-law. My ex-husband did this. The female. I think it was the John Wayne Gacy, the well-known psychopath. I broke my arm. Can you help me with this gas? And then he would lure people into his car after they helped them. I think that's the scenario. Don't quote me on this, but it's the sob story. I broke my arm. Can you help me with these groceries? No broken arm. I lost my phone. Can I use your phone? Oh, and what's your number? Can I help you? Can I send you, this, sob story. Poor, poor, pitiful me. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened to you. Tell me more. Next thing you know, hook, line, and sinker, you're being yanked out of, your own element, and you're onto another element where you don't have the faculties, the senses to be able to navigate the terrain. You're going to be somewhere without a map back. I mean, it can be very scary where eventually it'll go. So be very wary of some of these transgressions that are used to engulf, surround, and sort of inoculate you from your own healthy self. As I've said before, it's a way of causing you self-abandonment while you're in your own body. It's just the only way to really describe the phenomenon. So if you've experienced this, realize this is just the way that they are. And then the thoughts which you feel that you're picking up are because of the intention and deliberate planting of these based on words, thoughts, focus, positioning of their body that kind of all together goes to create this awareness of you thinking what they want you to think or to perceive them the way that they want you to perceive them, but you can rise above by saying, aha, I see how they want me to think. I see what they're wanting me to perceive. I see what they're doing here. This is an advanced level, and I'm not having anything to do with that. That is them, and I am me over here. You have to see the separateness and distinction, which oftentimes takes a while. It's your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Keep your focus, keep your strength, keep your, connection within yourself, and it'll eventually all come back. I call it resensitizing yourself. It's like you do have to engage and be proactive in your own self-rehabilitation, but stick with it, stay the course. You're not depriving yourself. You will be strengthening yourself.